Hi, this is a video about relationship. I was asked to make this video a couple of years ago, but ironically then my marriage ended. I did make a video, but then my marriage ended, so that video didn't get published. Needless to say, the video I'm making now is going to be a little bit different from the one that I made then. But there is something that I want to repeat from what I said in that video, and it's about the nature of relationship. What is a relationship? The most beautiful definition that I've ever heard, and I haven't heard many, because we don't really, in our culture, we don't really think about these things much. But the most beautiful definition of relationship that I've ever heard comes from New Zealand. I think it comes from the Maori tradition, where they say that a relationship is the space between two people. Relationship is not a thing. It's space between two people. And if you think about it, then if that's true, if my relationship with somebody is the space between myself and that other person, then I am responsible for that space. There's a golden rule about relationship, and it goes like this. It's called authenticity. We dream about certain kinds of relationships, but most of us don't get them. Most people, for at least most of their lives, and for many people, for their whole lives, they don't get the kind of relationships that they desire. And that's because the dream that we have of relationship and the reality of who we are and who we're allowing ourselves to be is completely different. The dream relationship is about intimacy, right? We all want to have deeply intimate relationships. But most of us don't experience them. Why? Because we're not being authentic. Intimacy requires authenticity. So the golden rule about relationship, the golden rule about intimacy is authenticity, which means being myself. Which sounds easy. I remember when I was a child, people would say to me, just be yourself. If I was going for, I don't know, an interview or something, just be yourself. And I remember thinking, well, what does that mean? You know, I had no idea what that meant. And how can you be anything other than yourself? But the reality is that we are actually incredibly skilled at being anything other than ourselves, wearing all kinds of beautiful masks, avoiding, hiding, pretending, and so on. But when it comes to being truly authentic, we're not very good at it. Why? Because authenticity means courage. Really, authenticity and the word courage are almost synonymous. Recently I came across a very lovely definition of the word courage whilst watching one of Brené Brown's TED Talks, in which she says that courage is, I think, the ability to tell the story of who we are with our whole hearts. To tell the story of who we are with our whole hearts, with our whole heart. Yeah, I think that's what courage is. That's certainly what authenticity is. Why? The question arises, two questions arise. Why are we not authentic then? And secondly, how can we be authentic? So, we're not authentic because we were not shown how to be authentic. In fact, we were told not to be authentic. We were made to be inauthentic, and we were never shown examples of authenticity, very rarely. Think about the relationship between your parents. think about the relationships between the adults around you when you were growing up, how much intimacy, true intimacy, was there in those relationships, how much real warmth, real depth. And just to give you an example, I was with a couple the other day, let's just say they're friends of mine, and I went to visit them, and when I arrived, they were with another couple who I had never met before. And I sat down and I was talking a little bit with them, but mostly just observing the interaction between these two couples. And I was kind of perplexed because I couldn't figure out if they're friends, didn't seem like it, or if they've just met for the first time. And I thought this is probably the more likely. Finally, I decided it didn't quite seem the case, but I thought that they must have just recently met. This other couple left, and finally I was able to ask my friends, how do you know those two? And it turns out that they went to school together, and they've stayed in touch ever since. They're actually, they would say, close friends, and have known each other for something like 40 or 50 years. So that's the kind of thing I'm talking about. That's the kind of thing we witnessed growing up, whilst at the same time being told very, very clearly to not be authentic. Don't cry. Don't be angry. Don't make a fuss. Be quiet. And so on and so forth, in many different ways, all the time. There was a saying in England, there is a saying in England that children should be seen and not heard. So this is trauma. Most people don't think of this as trauma, but take it from me, I'm a therapist and I specialize in healing trauma. Take it from me that is one of the most widespread and most damaging traumas that any of us have ever experienced, and it's the cause of many problems in the world today. Not the least of which is our inability to have proper relationships with each other. And so, of course, it becomes a pattern which spirals and goes on, generation after generation. So I would ask you to ask yourself, what kind of relationships do I want to have? What is the nature of those relationships? And if it's about intimacy, which I suspect it will be, if you want to have intimacy in your relationships, and if you want to have truly intimate relationships that are meaningful, then here's the thing. There are not two extremes, as we were shown and taught and led to believe, in which on the one hand you have this box labeled partner or wife or husband, and in that box you're able to be intimate with somebody, and on the other extreme there are maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 other boxes labeled friend, colleague, acquaintance, stranger. Maybe there's a few more that I can't think of. And in those boxes are people with whom you're not supposed to be intimate. How about we are intimate with everybody, and we see every relationship in our lives as a possibility for intimacy, as a possibility for meaningful exchange, meaningful communication, growth, nurture, and the possibility of sharing our gifts with the world around us. If you like the sound of that, then the answer is to be authentic in every relationship. And of course that really means we have to be authentic with ourselves. We have to have the courage to continuously, from moment to moment, tell the story of who we are with our whole hearts. Since my marriage ended, I have been going through a process, the process that I just described really, allowing myself, opening myself to the possibility and saying yes to all of the relationships in my life. And this has had a very profound impact on me and on my life. One of the things that I've been experiencing is, and allowing myself, is the possibility of having, and it wasn't a choice that I made, it just kind of happened, allowing myself to have relationships, sexual relationships, which are not, which don't involve commitment. For me, this was a huge turning point, because I had always very much unconsciously believed in this paradigm that I described a moment ago, a box over here and some boxes over there and nothing in between. What I'm experiencing now is the space in between, the boxes in between, and the possibility that they are truly beautiful in their own right. And I see so many people, and it used to be me, desperately looking for this box over here, desperately looking for the one in which I can be myself, the one which will allow me to be intimate. And it just doesn't work like that. Last summer I met a beautiful, incredibly beautiful girl with whom initially we sort of fell in love, and we initially thought that we're boyfriend and girlfriend and, you know, this box. And what happened was that we developed a wonderful relationship, but we realized that that's not the case. I'm not the one for her, and she's not the one for me. But nevertheless, we still loved each other, still love each other. So what to do? Should we break up? Should we stay together? Well, how about if we allow ourselves, and I'm not talking about that relationship, but I'm talking you and I and everyone generally, how about if we allow ourselves to experience the possibility that lies in the space between us, in the relationship, uniquely every time, without saying no to it? How about if we have the courage to be truly authentic and therefore truly intimate with everybody, and just see where that goes? Thanks for listening. And if you have any questions, you can leave a comment. I would be happy for you to share this. And if you have any questions that you would like answered in the form of a video, let me know, and maybe I'll make a video about it. Bye-bye.